Stephanie Music Publishing, Incorporated. Operating publicly as WWE Music Group, is an American record label funded and operated by WWE. It was manufactured and co-marketed by Columbia Records and distributed by Sony Music Entertainment until 2013, when the distribution moved to Warner Music Group. The label specializes in compilation albums of the WWE wrestlers' entrance themes, often by contributing performing artists, but also releases titles that have been actually performed by the wrestlers themselves, including the various artists' album WWE Originals and John Cena's You Can't See Me. Historically, most WWE entrance themes have been created by Jim Johnston since the 1980s, while in recent times, themes have been written or performed by John Alicastro and Mike Lauri, known collectively as CFO $. The label is currently under the management of Neil Lawi. History, beginnings. The series of World Wrestling Federation produced albums began in 1985 with the Wrestling album. The album contained the song Land of a Thousand Dances, recorded by a majority of the WWF roster at the time. The Locker Room would later reconvene for the song's music video. Later in 1993, WrestleMania, the album was released, but it failed to chart on the Billboard 200. By 2002, however, it has sold a total of 91,000 copies. Format change and success. The format of the wrestling albums changed in 1996, as the focus went from the wrestlers themselves singing to a compilation of various wrestlers' entrance themes. WWF Full Metal was the first album released with a new focus. In October, the album reached number 184 on the Billboard 200 and by 2002, had sold 173,000 copies. This new format proved to be a success. The follow-up album, WWF The Music, Volume 2, which was released 2 years later, spent 16 weeks on the chart and sold over 480,000 copies. WWF The Music, Volume 3 and WWF The Music, Volume 4, released in December 1998 and October 1999 respectively, each sold over 1 million copies. In particular, Volume 3 reached number 10 on the Billboard 200, spent 30 weeks on the chart, and sold over 1.21 million copies. The album reached position number 4 in its dark copyright but week, stayed on the charts for 20 weeks, and sold over 1.13 million copies. On March 21, 2000, the company worked with Priority Records to release a hip-hop album titled WWF Aggression, which featured rappers such as Snoop Dogg, ODB, Method Man, and Kool Keith, all of whom recorded versions of various wrestlers' entrance themes. This album differed from previous albums, which were more along the lines of rock music. Despite the change, the album still sold approximately 640,000 copies. In October 2000, WWE announced the launch of the record label under the name SmackDown Records, with Ron McCarroll as the president. In February 2001, WWF The Music, Volume 5 dark copyright butted on the Billboard 200 at position number 2, spending 2 weeks in the top 20 and selling 176,000 copies, as well as reaching number 2 in the UK Albums Chart and number 5 in the Canadian Albums Chart. The album featured an original song by The Rock. By 2002, Volume 5 had sold 640,000 copies. In September 2001, the WWF Tough Enough album sold 138,000 copies. In May 2001, WWE signed their first act, the heavy metal band Neurotica, and released their third album in June 2002, the only non-wrestling related album released on the label so far, before they disbanded. In 2002, WWF Possible Entry sold 145,000 copies in its first week to enter the Billboard 200 at position number 3. It was the fourth consecutive WWF album to dower copyright but in the top 10 of the Billboard 200. Possible Entry also dower copyright butted on the Billboard Hard Rock Albums chart. The album included music from Creed, Our Lady Peace, Limp Bizkit, Marilyn Manson, Kid Rock, Drowning Pool, Rob Zombie, Sevendust, and Saliva. Later in the year, WWE Anthology was certified platinum after just 10 days of release. As of March 2006, WWE officially announced the launching of the WWE Music Group under the management of Neil Lawi, who not only maintains the label but selects songs to be used on television and pay-per-view events, and regularly scouts new talent to showcase via WWE. Within 2 months of operation, the newly restructured label had an album reach the top 10 of the Billboard 200 when WWE Reckless Intent, featuring songs by artists such as Motor Paragraph Red, 3-6 Mafia, POD and Killswitch Engage, reached number 8. In 2007 the label released a Quiero Viva, the dark copyright but album of WWE ring announcer Lillian Garcia, in conjunction with Universal Music Latino. In 2007, WWE released WWE The Music, Volume 7, the first digitally exclusively album released on the label iTunes, and starting in 2012, WWE began making old albums available through online stores, starting with the first 5 volume albums released from 1995 to 2001. On April 20, 2013, the entrance theme of Wrestler Fandango reached number 44 in the UK singles chart, after briefly being close to the top 10 in the midweek charts. Following the NXT Arrival show on February 27, 2014, WWE released singles of 8 NXT superstars created by CFO Dollar, and was followed in May by the music video and single of Tyler Breeze. Discography. Album releases, compilation albums, single artist albums, soundtrack albums. See also, Music in Professional Wrestling, List of record labels, references.